order. This is where we appoint the president and the vice president and establish our meeting dates. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt the president and vice president and the meeting dates for 2026.
And second? Will you call the roll?
Mrs. Jones?
Yes?
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Great. And is there a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn that meeting.
And yes. And for our general session, there is the clerk general. Is there any questions on the clerk general, or do I have a motion on the clerk
Make a
general?
motion to approve.
And yes. And are there any add-ons?
Have you had an opportunity to review the requisitions first?
Oh, yes, I have. I'm fine with them.
And yes.
And I do have one item for consideration not on the consent agenda. I have a resolution entering into partial assignment and assumption agreement with C5 Encore 3 LLC and ET Cincinnati V LLC relative to the previously authorized Community Reinvestment Area Agreement.
So this is for the Core 5 project that's out in Turtle Creek Township as you approach kind of the Racino area there. You have provided a community reinvestment agreement for Core 5 on the buildings that they have constructed. This is for Building 3. It has been sold. It's been announced that Amazon is bringing another facility to the area. So this is just moving the responsibilities and the rights of that CRA agreement to the new owner of the building.
So moved.
Second, roll call, please.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And then I do have one add-on. I have a resolution engaging with Midwest Employers Casualty Company by acknowledging the excess workers' compensation binder and authorizing the fraud warning supplement for the provision of excess loss insurance relative to the workers' compensation program effective January 1st, 2026.
So moved.
And yes.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And that's all I have.
Make a motion to adjourn that meeting.
Okay, before I take your motion, since we have 2 minutes, I'm just gonna ask the administrators if there's anything they had to add.
No, I think the only thing that I've added is just to remind, we're working with the auditor's office, the Board of Elections, and just it'll come in a future meeting that the senior service group does want to put the renewal on for 2026. So it'll be no new money, just a renewal relative to the senior service levy. So that'll be upcoming, and then things that we've discussed about at the last meeting relative, at the budget, at the final meeting relative to property taxes, as we're working with the prosecutor's office on items, and hopefully bring that to you as soon as well.
Have you talked to the NDD board? What are they thinking?
I haven't had a chance to talk to them or met Nolan about them specifically, but I can do that and bring that back prior to our next meeting.
Probably be prudent to know what they are thinking if
Yeah.
in conjunction with whatever we're gonna do.
Okay,
Yeah.
that works. That's fine.
Great.
I got you a minute.
So there is a motion, I'll second that. Do you need a roll call for that or no? Okay, great. Now we have to stand down for 1 minute, and at 9:05, we'll bring your administrative hearing to order. And we're on time on the first meeting of 2026, so.
Excellent meeting
I-
so far.
It's really,
Madam
you know,
President,
see
your
what
first
happens when
official
you
act.
get new leadership.
Yeah.
All right, I will bring this work session agenda forward and this meeting to order. It's 9:05 on January 6, 2026. And the board is scheduled for the administrative hearing on the application of Royce Lowe OBO Tag Towers LLC in Turtle Creek Township, 1105 Nixon Camp Road for a site plan review. For the record, would the board's clerk please read into the record what documents have been filed in this matter and how and when notice of this hearing was given?
So the application was filed on November 26, 2025. Legal notices were mailed to adjacent property owners within 500 feet of the property on December 16th, 2025. The legal notice was posted on the County Commissioner website and county social media site on December 17th, 2025, and the sign was posted on the property on December 19th, 2025.
Great. At this time, I'd like to ask any person who thinks that they might testify in this matter to stand if you are able and raise your right hand, and I'll administer the oath of office to you all. Okay. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under oath to tell the truth? If so, answer I do.
I do.
Great, thank you. Next, the board will hear from staff testifying on behalf of the zoning department. And I did see that you were sworn in, but would you state your name for the record?
Yes, Raymond Dratt, Warren County Building and Zoning. Members of the board, thank you for this morning. Members of the community, I see the applicant for Tag Towers is present. Ms. Glancy is not here, she's the property owner. Starting off, case number is 101-2025, site plan review, Royce Lowe, CTC, Tag Towers LLC. The applicant is Royce Lowe. The owner of the property is Willa Glancy. The township is Turtle Creek. The address is 1105 Nixon Camp Road, Lebanon, Ohio 45036. The address can have a south Nixon Camp as well. Sometimes the south falls off and they just call it Nixon Camp. According to the engineer's office, the zero line for Nixon Camp north and south is Wilmington Road. The property identification or parcel identification number is 1310226-003. That is correct. Property size is 11.46 acres. The current zoning district is RU, Rural Residential Zone. The future land use map has it agricultural, rural, residential. Existing land use is agricultural, rural, residential, and the issue for consideration is a telecommunications facility / tower, Warren County Rural Zoning Code 3.205.7. We are here today for the Board of County Commissioners, and everything there is correct. Here's an aerial map showing the location of the site. Here's a better view to put you guys into perspective. From an aerial view, here's the site. Over this way is the rest area for northbound. Here's the Jeremiah Morrow Bridge, so you have an idea of geographically where we're talking. Once again, here's the zoning and flood. You see down in the Little Miami, that's the flood zone. There's no flood, and RU is the current zoning. Here's the future land use map. Here's the notification. At the bottom, you'll see notification with 500 feet and failure to deliver shall not delay or postpone the hearing. That's out of the Warren County Zoning Code. Here's the surrounding zoning. As you can see, it is RU to the north, south, east, and west. Here's the Board of County Commissioners' authority based on the ORC to revise a code confer power on a Board of County Commissioners or the BZ Board of Zoning Appeals with respect to location, erection, construction, reconstruction, change, alteration, removal, or enlargement. Here's a letter, it's an email, but in this instance, the method of notification from the Tag Towers didn't go immediately to the surrounding neighbors. They have, via this email, basically conceded to the requirements of the Warren County Rural Zoning Code as it pertains to the location and the qualifications set forth in the zoning code, and confer power back to the county commissioners. Here's the existing coverage. You'll see this is something that they've provided, and I'll let the applicant speak on this. This is the proposed cell tower. The area in white is a lack of service. The applicant states that a significant wireless network service gap exists, which negatively affects substantial numbers of wireless users throughout the area. Figure 1 is covered plot demonstrating the current gap in coverage. So if you look at the top, all that beige area is the lack of coverage. Here is a picture I got yesterday or Friday of what they're proposing at the site. Here's a submitted site plan. You can see here that it just covers the tower. It gives you a rough idea of what is going on in the leased area. Here's a closer view of that, and shows you the access road, the tower, and just gives you a better understanding of what they're proposing. The proposal, it's for a 250-foot tower. The tower type is a lattice. The co-location designed to support 4 service providers. The lightning arrestor is a 4-foot on top of the tower. The lighting is a beacon and strobe on the top of the tower based on FAA requirements. The tower setback encroaches on one property. There has been an easement obtained for that little sliver of property. It still is owned by the owner of the other property, so it is a existing easement that they submitted. The access will be the existing driveway. They'll make some modifications to it to adhere to the zoning code. They will provide 1 parking space, and the leased area is 100 by 100 fenced in area, and the parent parcel size is 1.46 acres. Here's the proposed landscaping plan. Once again, we'll require that they update this prior to any permitting, but it shows 46 evergreen trees around the leased area. That's a requirement for the zoning code to surround the property by evergreens. So this is an aerial of the site. The red area is the tower, and you can see that it's surrounded by existing woods, and that will be preserved to the extent possible to preserve and go towards the buffer. So one of the requirements is setbacks. The setback A, the distance from the center of the tower to an adjacent property line shall be equal to the tower height. A tower may encroach within the required setback only upon securing the following. Number 1, an easement for the affected area from an adjacent involved owner or property owner. An easement for the affected area has been secured from the adjacent property owner, and this is the area in question. So this is the leased area. This is a separate parcel, and because the height of the tower, it will encroach in this area, and they have obtained an easement for that fall zone. The reviewing departments, Warren County Deputy Administrator, Warren County Engineer, Warren County Water and Sewer, Warren County Soil and Water Conservation, Warren County Regional Planning, Turtle Creek Township Fire Department, Turtle Creek Township Trustees, Warren County Combined Health District, Warren County Building Department, and the Warren County Sheriffs. Here's a letter from Molly at Soil and Water. I have no comments as they pertain to soil and water or flood. Turtle Creek Township, this is a lengthy letter. In short, I've highlighted the area in accordance with section 303.211 B3A III of the Ohio Revised Codes and pursuant to Turtle Creek Township Board of Trustees resolution number 160603. The board has directed me as the township administrator to give written notice to you that Turtle Creek Township requests that the Board of County Commissioners notify the developer that construction of a new telecommunication tower must comply with the Warren County Rural Zoning Code, sections 30301 to 303.25 of the revised code. RPC spent some really detailed time assisting the zoning department with this, and here are their recommendations. The first three are boilerplate: compliance with the Warren County Rural Zoning Code, specifically 3.205.7 telecommunication towers, compliance with section 3.205.7A1 of the Warren County Rural Zoning Code, documenting the co-location efforts for the applicant, and ensuring that the telecommunication tower system has been designed based on co-location efforts. Number three, approval of the access point by the Warren County Engineers Office and Turtle Creek Township Fire and EMS departments to ensure adequacy of the access point for additional use. Prior to submitting zoning permit approval, the applicant submits an updated site plan that illustrates a driveway that meets the requirements of 3.205.7A4 of the Warren County Rural Zoning Code, a driveway that is not less than 10 feet wide and provides a double width segment. B, an apron 25 feet wide to the access point on Nixon Camp Road as an alternative to the requirements of section 3.311D1 of the Warren County Rural Zoning Code. Documentation that the existing landscaping immediately around the leased area, 100 by 100, will be preserved where there's no cutting or disturbing of vegetation except for diseased vegetation and invasive species, and how the existing vegetation along the property boundary complies with the intent of buffer type C. Number five, the structural sufficiency and the design of the telecommunication tower as certified by an Ohio licensed engineer are capable of supporting a minimum of 4 telecommunication service providers. Number six, the applicant provides documentation of the cell tower's fall zone radius and that the tower and lightning arrestor are designed to fall within the subject property. Number seven, assembly uses, including but not limited to wedding facilities, event center, retreats, campgrounds, and lodging, are prohibited on the site within the cell tower's fall radius. The zoning comments: compliance with the Warren County Rural Zoning Code standards for site plan review 1.303. The zoning department staff requests adherence to all Warren County Regional Planning Commission staff recommendations. Approval is subject to the conditions of the reviewing departments, and the applicant shall update and follow the final site plan to include all recommendations prior to the building and zoning permitting. In the efforts to prepare for today, there's been multiple communications between myself and the applicant. The applicant was notified on December 19th, 2025 that they should be prepared to address how they comply with section 3.205.7A1. In the beige is, in the bold, justification shall include but is not limited to copies of certified mail requests sent to all other tower owners in the vicinity of the proposed tower stating the applicant's need. The applicant shall provide documentation of each request and responses. Additional correspondence: the applicant was asked on December 12th if there were existing contracts with other telecommunication or national carriers. The applicant is proposing a tower to support 4 service providers. The zoning department tried to determine if they have contracts with those service providers currently. The zoning department tried to determine if co-location in a smaller tower would meet the applicant's needs. And the zoning department tried to determine if the propagation study was conducted at 250 or at 260 feet in height. The correspondence continued. The designed tower height is required in order to achieve the necessary expansion of service within the identified coverage gap. Specifically, the proposed tower height of 260 feet is needed to fill the identified coverage gap and provide optimal capacity offload in the area. A tower height lower than 260 feet would not meet Verizon's coverage objectives. The reason for this slide and all these correspondence is that in their original application, the height of the tower was 250 feet. They put a 4-foot lightning arrestor on top. Now it's 254 feet, but in the propagation studies that are included in your PowerPoint, they reference a 260-foot cell tower height. There has been multiple email correspondence, as I indicated, so when the applicant comes up in front of you, those are some things that he will talk about. He has provided in email form some of the answers to the questions, but I'll let him speak directly to you on those. So the homework that the zoning and regional planning did, this is a map of the area. In their propagation studies, they identified Tower 1, Tower 9, Tower 7, Tower 3, and Tower 8. If you go out there and you look just off in the horizon, you will see that this is the closest tower, tower number 1. That's 329 South Nixon Camp. That is approximately less than a mile away. So that's the tower that they notified the American Tower, I believe, and spoke about co-location. And what they said was the tower's not tall enough to satisfy the needs of Verizon. Tower number 2 is a tower on 350, 1.238 miles away, that's owned by Subcarrier Communications. There's a single antenna on that tower, but I don't have any information that they requested co-location on that tower. Tower number 3 is a tower they identified that is at the exit entry from Wilmington Road and 71. That tower is 1.97 miles away and is owned by New Power. I don't have any co-location information from that tower. Tower number 4 is right across the street. It's actually on the exit and it's on state land, so I don't even know if it's possible, but it's a tower in the area, 2.1 miles away, and it's unknown if co-location was attempted or even possible. Tower number 5 is a tower that is at 123 and 71. Just, you can see it from the Pilot Flying J. If you get off at 123, you look directly to turn right into Lebanon, it stands there. That is approximately 2.2 miles away, unknown if co-location was attempted or is feasible. Tower number 6 is a tower that is approximately 2.76 miles away. It's SBA Properties, another cell tower, unknown if co-location was attempted or feasible. Tower number 7 is one that they identified in their propagation study. It's on Wood Road. It is owned by American Towers, and it is approximately 3.29 miles away from the target site. Tower number 8 is one that they identified in their propagation study. It is approximately 3.44 miles away, unknown if co-location was attempted or is feasible. And finally, tower number 9 is way down here on Oregonia Road, behind Sibsey Klein. It's a huge tower, and it is 4.4 miles away, and it is unknown if co-location is feasible or was attempted. That's basically what I just read to you, the distances from the towers. Site plan review criteria, section 1.306. These are the criteria that you will use to base your decision upon today. The site plan was conducted to determine anticipated impacts in public health and safety, as well as public convenience, comfort, prosperity, and general welfare. The factors to be considered are weighed by the approving authority, include but are not limited to the following, but no single factor controls in decision-making, nor must all factors support the decision. There's a lot going on in my mind, but one last thing I want to say is that part of co-location is other high tall structures, okay? I can't tell you, I know there's a water tower by Flying J. I don't know if you can put an antenna on a water tower. Probably water, electricity don't mix, I don't know. But the Jeremiah Bridge is a huge structure. And if the objective is to cover a service gap, I don't know if that's even feasible or possible, just something that I observed as a zoning inspector when I was driving around the area. That may be a question for the applicant. I have included, this is the co-location, existing coverage. You can see we talked about that in depth. These are just extra slides. Here's the potential co-location on the tower on Nixon, South Nixon Camp, less than a mile away. Here is the coverage plot, depicts improvement of the coverage with their new tower. You can see that it's a huge improvement from what they proposed, or what the current one is. Here's the use restriction within the fall radius, so that everywhere that the tower will fall, the property owner had to sign a waiver saying that, okay, my barn, you know, is in the fall zone and it impacts what I can do with it. Tag tower proposal letter, that's in your PowerPoint, that's in our file. That's basically them and their justification as to why they need a tower. There's a letter from the FAA with the specifying that it is not a hazard to air navigation, but there's a requirement for lighting. Here's the easement we talked about for the fall zone. Here's some correspondence that they did, as we spoke about it earlier, where they have to send out certified letters and show to us that they tried to co-locate. This was the co-location email, and yesterday I have a certified receipt dated January 5th where they sent a certified letter to this particular Jason guy. Here's something that RPC did. This is, in case you're wondering, the proposed tower and the potential distances to the residential surrounding structures. And I know this is very confusing, but if you see, this is a topography. All these little lines are elevations. You can see down in the valley, 658 feet above sea level, and over here we're at 958. So that's where the tower location is. And this is the correspondence that we had on Friday. Once again, I'll let the applicant speak on his answers to the height of the propagation study, because I don't know what RAD is. And here is the notification, basically the labels that were used for notification of the surrounding property owners. Sorry to be so long-winded, but are there any questions of me?
So tell me again about Turtle Creek Township's letter dated the 8th.
Yes, sir.
They talk about it complying with rural zoning code, but they also complain that a few of the requirements were not met of notification.
Correct. So in the way the ORC reads is that a cell tower who is proposing to erect a new cell tower, per the ORC, must send a letter to the adjacent or across the street property owners. I'm going to put a tower up at 123 East Main Street. They send those letters out, and the property owners have 15 days to notify you. We saw that recently in another proposed cell tower out in Harlan Township, where the cell company did that. In this instance, Tag Towers opted not to do that, to concede to give you guys the ultimate authority to make the determination on whether or not they could put a tower at this location. So what you see in Turtle Creek's letter, and Tammy and Jennifer are here today, they basically brought that to the attention of the county commissioners that they did not adhere to the standards. They kind of just went around it because they knew that ultimately they would be here anyways. And that's what Turtle Creek Township's advising, is that they want, in absence of a letter, they want you to make sure that the tower meets the, complies with the Warren County Rural Zoning Code.
So is the property zoned correctly to
Yeah.
support a tower right now?
It is. It's RU, which means that in order for them to put a tower in the table of uses, it's site plan review, which is the responsibility and the approval from you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so there's not any, there's waivers being requested.
No, no, ma'am. The only special thing for this particular site is that adjacent property owner, the easement, because if the tower falls down, it falls into another parcel. So they have that easement. Yes, sir.
And you brought forward all of the tower locations, and it's unclear to you that some of those locations, whether or not they could support this.
That's correct. You know, you'll hear the applicant, and the applicant is a professional cell tower constructor. I don't have that area of expertise. I just did this because I knew that you guys would have questions, so I went out, I looked around, I did some measuring, I reached out. And there's a tower that's on 350, and there was no communication. And it may be because,
It doesn't meet the needs.
that's correct, and/or that the applicant and their client, I think the way you'll see it is Verizon may be the client, and Verizon is saying, well, our propagation studies don't include that tower because it's not tall enough. But that, I'll let the applicant, Mr.
And you've advised then the applicant to expect to respond to those questions today.
Absolutely, absolutely. I let him know that there was gonna be, and I know that there was well, I'll just say that. He knows that he's to be prepared for questions today.
Okay,
And he has made attempts, like I said, in the corresponding emails, to answer some of those questions, but he needs to be answering them to the Board of County Commissioners and the citizens, and not necessarily me.
okay, so the applicant, where is the applicant? Do you have any cross-examination questions for the administration at this time?
No, I would make one correction.
You can come on up.
Yeah,
Could you state your name and address for the record, please?
Roy Slough, 216 Barton Avenue.
And you have been sworn in.
Yes. Only one correction from what Ray put together, very nicely done by him, and I appreciate whenever somebody can do that for me, and the reason for the correction is he just got this email. It's a picture of the existing tower to the north. So you saw one picture of existing tower. That is the existing tower. That's not one we are putting up. We are putting up a self-support. The picture is a guide tower. Yeah. So that's the existing tower. That is the tower that I had communications with ATC, American Tower Company, and it's about 100 feet tall. So just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
But I don't know if I start going on my part
Well,
now.
do you have any questions for Ray at this point?
No, I think you did a
Okay.
good job.
Okay,
Can you have him identify where this tower is in relation to the 9 locations that the zoning inspector had on the map?
So that is number one. That is the closest tower to our site.
okay. So that's-
For the record, that is 329 South Nixon Camp Road, Fort Ohio, 45054. owned by American Tower Asset.
Great, thanks. Thank you, Ray. Stay,
Thank you.
stay close. And now, the applicant can come forward and present the applicant's case.
Good morning, everybody. So my industry is kind of niche, real estate in the telecommunication market. Not many people know many people that work in that field. So what I generally like to do is go through my process. As Ray alluded to, how the customer structure, if you want to call it that, works is Verizon's the head honcho. We would refer to them as the anchor carrier. So Verizon got a hold of Tag Towers, sent them longitude and latitude points, and said we need a tower here because of lack of coverage. They don't really look around the area. The RF engineers, all their job is throw pins at maps and tell us we need coverage here. So then that's when I get roped in. My first job is to look around the area and see what existing structures are there. If there are existing structures, I am to make not an application, but a candidate sheet. That way the RF engineer can determine whether or not it would suit their needs. After which, depending on whether it does or not, I either continue on looking for more candidates or my process ends there and I start doing applications with whatever tower company is there, and Tag Towers would fall off. If I am to go forward, if there's no existing structures or the structures are not suitable to our uses for whether or not structurally or their location does not suit us, I would then review the ordinance and then approach near the landowners in the vicinity that would adhere to whatever jurisdiction standards. So that's the next step. I am required to get a number of candidates per site, and that's because RF and I don't have a lot of communication until I start telling them where they could possibly go from whatever landowners are in the area. After which, that is when me and RF start talking, because a lot of times I will pick a candidate that is within their stated search area, and they would, a lot of times they'll say that doesn't work for one reason or another, and I have to move on. So that's a long and short of the overview of my role. In this particular situation, RF gave me directives to look in this area at a half-mile search radius.
Who is Tag Towers? Are you a large company? Is it you? What, when you say I?
Okay, so I am Roy Slough, the applicant at CTC, that is Chaley Tower Consultants. We are a third party. We deal with real estate. So we got brought on by Tag and Verizon. Tag Towers is known as a build-to-suit company. They build towers for Verizon. They build and manage. Verizon leases space on the towers from Tag.
So Tag is a large company. They're in the...
Not a gigantic company in the tower world, but they are big enough to be working with Verizon.
And you're the third-party real estate consultant. You go out and find potential sites.
Yes.
Okay.
So I work with 7 companies that all do the same thing for Verizon.
Okay.
Tag is one of our vendors and one of my favorites because they're not too big, not too small. I can talk to the owner directly. It's nice. Where was I? Oh, talking about this site in particular. I achieved my contractual obligation to find 3 candidates with the initial search. After which Verizon still needs coverage, so I'm still required to find the location. Those initial 3 fell off for various reasons. Landowners all decided they were not interested in moving forward. So I sent out mailers to the surrounding area, including outside the stated search area, because I am just trying to find something that can suit their needs. Which eventually I realized the Glancy's property was in the initial search area, I had not sent them the letter. My father, my boss, happened to be in the area. So I called him. I said, hey, I missed this property. Can you go do a door knock and talk to the Glancys? And that's how we met the Glancys. So after which, I'll start getting into the specifics of the existing tower and why that doesn't work and why we are asking for the height we are. So the tower to the north is 100 foot tall. The RF propagation maps that you saw previously showed you a area. I'm gonna try to use this if you guys don't mind.
No, go ahead.
So that is the propagation from the north tower. That tower is 120 foot tall. I requested a propagation map, or 100 flat foot tall. I requested a propagation map to depict a 140 foot tall structure with our antennas at 140, which is called rad centerline. And that's what the map would look like with that tower.
So you're saying, when you're identifying the tower to the north, are you saying number 1 or number 3?
Number one.
Okay.
Number 3, that's existing coverage. In this industry, you have to build out your systems a lot like a honeycomb. You can't have towers close by your existing coverage, or you will have coverage interference and you'll have a dead spot.
And you define close by as being closer than a mile or a mile and a quarter?
Within whatever the service coverage currently is.
But that's what you're doing with this potential site is within, there's 2 towers within a mile and a half.
Yes, we're not on those towers.
I understand, but you're talking about coverage interference.
Yes.
If you're putting up a new tower within an established area, so you've got 2 towers within a mile and a half, and so you're saying this proposed tower would not interfere with existing service?
No, because the proposed tower is within Verizon, there's not the Verizon coverage there. That is what the coverage looks like currently.
And when you talk about that coverage map, tell me about the topography there. I mean, is that very hilly and up and down?
Yes, with the river running through there, it drops off steep.
Substantially.
Yes.
So, this happens to be, there's so many things I don't know anything about. I happen to know something about this. What about this whole cone of silence concept that if you have a tower right here, then it's the only cell phone tower in the world. And I learned this for all you folks that, because this is literally my backyard, that this is the only tower in the world, and I'm standing right here with my cell phone. My cell phone doesn't work, right? It goes out at the horizon, and you actually get no coverage underneath the tower, correct?
Funnily, so that's not something that the county had asked me, but that was something the Glancys asked me. Because one of the reasons that this was going to help them is Willa does not have good coverage. She is getting older. It does worry her daughter that she can't call her readily. So I reached out. That was a question they proposed to me. First time I had heard it. I've been doing this for 5 years. So I reached out to RF and I asked them, hey, is this a thing that is a worry? And RF says no. Our technicians use Verizon services at Verizon sites, which is immediately under the tower. And I believe I did get an email from RF stating that. I can't say that for a matter of fact, but I think I got confirmation from RF to provide to my landowner.
So you're saying that they accommodate that in certain circumstances, because other circumstances with that honeycomb of coverage, they intentionally don't want it going down. They want it going at the horizon, is my understanding. So you're saying in certain circumstances, if there's limited coverage around the actual physical side of the tower, they can accommodate for that.
So my experience is mostly in the C-band world. There's different kinds of frequencies that Verizon utilizes to cover different kinds of areas. And this is, again, this is not, I'm assuming when you're talking about a cone of a dead zone below a tower, I assume that is in areas where you're building very tall structures and you're trying to cover a big area. With what we're doing here, we are trying to cover a smaller area and give a lot of bandwidth for that area, meaning a big ability for the customers in that area to be able to download quickly, stream and such.
And it looks like, based on the topography of the map and knowing that there's a river right there with a substantial grade, will this tower affect much of the area that has problematic coverage? Because the nature of, again, whether, you know, you're at the horizon with your broadband and the waves are being emitted, they're not necessarily going down into a gully, correct?
You are correct in stating that height very much matters when you're trying to cast into a gully, because physical limitations of topography to ground will kill signals. And that is why our tower is to be 250 feet with a 245 rad center line, is because we're trying to cover
250 or 260?
250. So our construction drawings are for 250 AGL with a 245 rad center line. That is the center of our antennas.
Okay.
That good?
Yeah, but why is zoning saying it's 260?
That was a misstep by me. Our conversation with RF, the radio frequency engineers, my measurements are taken off of Google Earth and a GIS website. So I tell them how much I can get them. 260 is what I thought. Our surveyor went out there and said, at this location with your setbacks, you're gonna be 250.
So it's 250, for the record, it's 250.
250, 250 feet AGL above ground level.
But your propagation study's 260.
No. And again, got this to him a little late, holidays kind of kicked my rear. Our propagation study is for 245 feet. I provided him my request from me to the Verizon engineer. So 250 is the height. 245 is what we depict on the propagation map. Okay. So this is a propagation map on that north tower for 140 feet. This is the existing structure that you saw a picture of. So, as David was alluding to, casting into river basins is a problem when you have a short tower. This is with our proposed site. We cover the interstate. We try to cover as much as that area as we can. And we are limited due to topography and the height of our tower.
So is this, again, one of the things I know, the most covered area in the country for cell phone coverage is along interstate highways?
Yes.
That's with the amount of traffic and public safety and yada yada. Carriers for decades have made sure that interstates are covered. This is almost immediately adjacent a highway. And you're still saying that the coverage, is it a macro coverage isn't sufficient, or you're saying specifically Verizon doesn't have coverage and the people in the area, if they have AT&T or some other carrier, they're fine?
Because we're dealing with two different systems. I don't know AT&T's system in that area. They might be fine. Verizon is trying to build out their coverage. Does that answer that question?
Yeah, so your client is saying our individual customer base doesn't have great coverage, and you don't know necessarily whether other carriers do or not. They're not the ones coming. Your client is Verizon. They're saying we need better coverage here. We want to pick up customers or better serve our own existing customers. And you're saying also part of this, so you're saying even with the erection of this tower, you only have potentially one tenant to take space on it right now, which is Verizon, even though it's supposed to be for 4, that the other carriers might potentially have sufficient coverage?
Well, I can only speak on behalf of Verizon. They
It's
might,
okay to say yes, I
yeah,
think.
they might, yeah. And, but keep in mind, tag towers, the way this business operates, build to suit. Verizon negotiates with tower companies, tower, owners, and they
And then they try to lease out space on the thing.
on a very good
Right.
price. They help with the cost of construction. TAG is wanting other customers. They want other carriers to get on this tower, so to lease their space.
But that's also my question relates to, are the other carriers, again, this is the first in however many years, we're hearing about, a coverage gap inside of the county. And, what is bringing that to the forefront? Okay, is it specifically a Verizon issue? And the free market says Verizon's no good in this area, so the free market says, I've got AT&T or whatever. Because that's coverage. And so then you have the issue of public safety of, I am a Verizon customer and I happen to be traveling through the area and my phone doesn't work. That's not good. But for the residents right there, that if they've already know that, hey, Verizon's no good, we need a different carrier. And again, this is not an issue on the interstate. The interstate's fine.
Actually, it's not.
It's not?
I drop a call going from here to Columbus along that I-71
So it's
near the
not good?
Jeremiah Morrow Bridge half the time.
Okay.
Well, I guess, one of the things that Ray was bringing forward for us, knowing that we would be asking the question, is I understand that we don't really allow towers to be built for a single provider. The idea is that if we're gonna build these structures, we're maximizing these structures and we're allowing competitors to be able to access the structures. And there were 9, I think, structures identified as possible, with the understanding that is, as Ray said, I'm not an expert in this, I'm just identifying the structures myself. But it does beg the question, have all of those structures been exhausted as possibilities for Verizon to be able to locate their equipment in order to get more coverage?
Well, first and foremost, the encouragement from the county is to build towers to suit multiple carriers. Multiple carriers don't work together. They have their own systems. One tower might work for one carrier, one tower might work for another. That's just kind of how the world functions in this regard.
Right,
And-
but those other towers presumably are built with the understanding that their competitors could also locate in there if they're willing to pay and permit whatever that's required to do. So my question is, of these 9 identified towers that already exist, is there an alternative to building a brand new tower? Or do you even know,
So,
since, some of these are in black and some of these are in red, and I don't know what the distinction is, but I assume one of the colors are people where Ray got the answer to, and one of the colors is he doesn't have that answer. Is that right, Ray? I don't want to put words in your mouth, I'm just trying to understand the map here.
Yes, and the red indicates towers that the zoning department located in the area of the proposed tower. So, the red, towers 6, 4, 2, and 5 are towers that they did not provide or show in their original, propagation maps.
Okay, what we're getting at is that for the ones that are in black, they have responded and saying they don't meet their needs. But we have 2, 4, 5, and 6, for which we're still waiting for a response from the applicant to know whether or not it's even possible.
As we speak today, to my knowledge, that's the only tower that we have correspondence from that, and it's, like I said, that co-location is not feasible. The other towers, I don't have any idea.
What kind of correspondence?
So from this tower here, Royce has provided me with an email that was drafted by the president of his company indicating that the tower height would not meet their objectives. Okay, so that's tower number one. The rest of the
So,
towers.
so there's nothing from the owner of the tower saying yay or nay, you're saying that the real estate consultant for Verizon is representing that the tower height for that particular tower is not sufficient to have a co-location. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
But only that one.
Correct. I can tell you,
Let me
yes.
assert myself here. The code says justification shall include but is not limited to copies of certified mail requests to all tower owners in the vicinity of the proposed tower stating the applicant's needs. The applicant shall provide documentation on each request and responses. Have you received any of that for any of the 9 locations?
Last night, I received a certified receipt dated January 5th, 2026, of that single tower. I have not received anything from the applicant about the other towers. Now, that's based on what you see there in front of you, Bruce. What I can tell you is that if you look at their study that was given to this man by, I'm assuming Verizon, and maybe he can speak about that, they go around it or about it a different way, okay? And maybe he can speak about that, because when you and I say, I want a return receipt verification that you notified Mr. Martin, that's what I'm looking for. But in this instance, it may have been, and I'm not speaking on his behalf, that Verizon is saying, well, listen, all those towers, they won't suit our needs.
Are you guessing about that, or do we have anything from Verizon saying that?
He provided us with a propagation study, and it was drafted by Verizon, sir. And it does not address any other towers in the area.
I mean, that's the bottom line for me is, look, I understand that, you know, no one wants to have these towers in their sight line, but modern communication technology and for public safety, we have to build out. We need to make sure that there's sufficient coverage, there's redundant coverage, and that we aren't picking and choosing among providers, that we're allowing people to get access to the best possible technology. I understand that. But there is a reason why the code is written to require that these towers can't be for only one provider, because we don't want hundreds of them in a proprietary fashion going up, and that we also require the exhaustion around whether or not there are existing structures that can meet our needs to get better coverage, sufficient coverage, without building these structures. And what is really, you know, what I'm struggling with here is being asked to make a decision where that question has yet to be answered, and answered in a way where I feel comfortable that it is based on facts. So that's really where I am. It's like, look, there is an issue. If there isn't sufficient coverage, we need to be able to provide sufficient coverage, and we need to do that in a way that's as responsible as possible. But to get to whether or not this particular proposed tower meets the rural zoning standards, I gotta first know about whether or not there is sufficiency of these other 9 locations. I know with location 1, it does not meet their needs.
May I?
Yes.
Okay, so it seems I haven't done a great job explaining how, or at least it's not been in a linear fashion where you guys can understand it pretty easily. So I talked about a little bit about the honeycomb of how these coverage maps are built out. You have to make certain that this tower is so far away from this tower so your signal will not overlap and cancel out itself. So that is a big part in whether or not
I mean,
these-
I'm prepared to believe that all 9 locations aren't sufficient. But what I don't have is in writing from the technical client that they are not sufficient and why they're not sufficient, whether it be height, whether it be because of this honeycomb phenomenon that I don't want to know any more about. I mean, I believe it exists, but this is not my area of expertise. Or there's already 4 providers on there and they can't support another provider. I mean, there are, I'm sure, several reasons why those 9 locations aren't sufficient. I just don't know location by the technical client, in this case Verizon, why it doesn't sufficiently meet their needs in writing.
Which the code requires.
Yes.
And has not been provided, and furthermore, in addition to those 9 locations, 3.205.7A1 requires a priority to be given, including some things that the zoning inspector testified to, like water towers, the Jeremiah Morrow Bridge. Are there any of these other locations we haven't heard any testimony on that would be available for a co-location?
So you say it's against the code. The code says vicinity. It doesn't give me a defined radius. It doesn't tell me what towers I need to approach. So I went to the one which is outside my search area to the north. And we emailed them originally, but we already knew that tower does not work at the height it is, even if we got an extension, which your code does allow for us to do, and went beyond that. We got the 3 variances that would require. We would still have a coverage issue with the nearest tower.
So but only that one location, you approached that one location.
So, in writing would be, I believe, a little difficult to understand the troubles of locating on any of these structures.
Have you communicated with the other 8?
There's not really a reason for me to, because of our existing coverage.
Well, I guess I'm
So,
look, I'm not trying to give you a hard time here. I mean, I understand this is not, locating these sorts of things is not, it's hard. It's like nobody wants utility wires in their vision. Nobody wants it, but everybody needs it. So it's like we have to be able to responsibly locate these things, and it's why we have the code that we do. But at the same time, we also have the code that we do to encourage and insist upon that other options are considered first, not because locating a new tower is the easiest. And that's what I don't feel satisfied to. It's like, look, I want to know if we have to locate a new tower in this particular community. I don't need to be convinced that there is coverage issues here. But I need to be convinced that there aren't other appropriate options that are in order to balance the general welfare of the community. That's what I'm getting at. And since it's not in writing, it's hard for me to be able to assess, you know, to make that determination.
Yeah, you just want more information. And if we want to go that way, I'd be fine to get you more information. Me and Ray can work out a plan. We need to hit each of these sites and have Verizon respond.
And so Bruce, can you tell me with respect to our obligation the time for which we have to have a hearing and so forth, are we satisfied if we were to, I'm not suggesting we are, but if we were to continue the hearing, are we still within the timing requirements?
Yes, and that is optimal as opposed to some provisional approval that says, provide this to us after the fact. No, nobody wants this, it makes no sense to provide it after the fact.
Yeah.
Either they can co-locate on one of these nines or some other utility structure as the priority list requires them to do, or they can't. But the code requires them to provide you with written justification of that.
So I guess, Commissioner, you know, we have all these residents here. I certainly want to give them the opportunity to speak, if they wish to. But my instinct is, if you're in agreement, is after that, we continue the hearing for the purposes of getting this additional information.
I mean, Mike, number one, I did understand you when you were talking about, you know, the coverage, and just so the residents know, I think me in particular have experience in this area in all three capacities. In my previous house, there was a cell phone tower proposed literally out my bedroom window, and I fought that like crazy. And it, you know, I went to Deerfield Township, I was against it, so I literally sat where you all sat trying to fight one of these things. I failed, but I gave it my best college try. My new house, there is a ginormous tower literally 200 yards away. And that was a big determination of, do I build there or not? And that's how I knew about the cone of silence, because that particular tower, there is no health effects, because literally I had people come out and measure it. There was no RF frequencies, there's no microwaves, there's no anything coming down at my property. It was going out. So the health effects, at least in that case, and that's why I was interested in, you know, pointing straight down, that has to be a technical determination that you want to do that, as opposed to most towers don't do that. So that's one. And then we own a tower. At the county, we own a tower on our fairgrounds. So I fought one, I built next to one, and we own one. So I'm fairly familiar with this stuff. And when it comes to a lot of these things, like, oh, the tower collapsing or what have you, it doesn't fall on a straight line over. They're built to come on top of each other. Nobody will. That's not that big of a deal from a concern wise. And the health effects, again, when I've looked at those, I found it not to be concerning. But what is concerning to me is, in some ways, we do have zoning regulations. And as I counted, there's been 4 things in the presentation that haven't been accurate. And I'll start with the least problematic one. The picture was wrong. That's not the tower you're proposing. Well, what does it look like? So you gave us the wrong picture. Then the height. It's not 260, it's 250. Oh, okay, that's wrong. Then Turtle Creek Township says you didn't send them the letters. And okay, well, that was wrong. And now our prosecutor is sitting here telling us, as a requirement of this, you're supposed to have letters from each one of the surrounding towers saying they don't work. We don't have that. So I think this is just premature at this point. Perhaps you meet all those conditions. And then, Bruce, under the law, or under our zoning code, and I would like to know about that, I'm a Verizon customer, and it's concerning that this entire area isn't covered, but in a rural area, literally down into a lake bed from 900 feet or whatever it is down to, you know, several hundred feet elevation change, are we required to have every carrier have sufficient coverage like that? Is it worth it to have one carrier come onto one tower because their coverage is inadequate everywhere versus they can't co-locate on a couple of these and I'm sure improve dramatically their coverage. It's not gonna get it all. And that's what I don't understand. You know, again, from a technical standpoint, that's important to me of, again, I fought these things, but I hate to say it, as Commissioner Jones said, public safety trumps a lot of what we're gonna complain about, or you all are gonna complain about. We need cell phones. We need them to work. And the public safety network is critically important. And we want, you know, again, me looking out my back window and seeing a tower versus someone's call to the fire department not going through. The call to the fire department not going through trumps my line of sight out my bedroom window. That just is the way it is. But we don't want to put up something I don't want to say needlessly, that hasn't been thoroughly vetted, that 80% of the problem, let's say, could be corrected by co-locating on another tower. It's not 100%, but then we don't have another 250-foot tower. That's what I need to understand.
Yeah.
And that's what the code contemplates, that's
Yeah.
the public policy, so that somebody doesn't have a monopoly, you have this opportunity for the competitor, that whoever owns the tower is going to financially benefit, because they're gonna lease co-location space on the tower
That's
to
right.
them. And then we
And
don't
they're
have.
incentivized to do that, I mean,
Correct.
you know, that's, so if it's at all possible in their space, they would want to be able to host this equipment. I don't know that it's possible, and that's where, you know, we wanna go. Well, Dave, do you have any more questions for this witness?
Just a couple things, so I wanted to, so the coal and silence, I can get you a response from RF detailing what they're planning to do. As in how they're planning to propagate this. From my previous, that's, they are planning to cover the entire area. Secondly, sounds like you guys just, I know you want it in writing. We very heavily revolve around these propagation maps, and it's because they're the quickest way to give you guys information. It's very easy to look at. So from what I'm hearing, you guys are wanting me to get you more maps of different possibilities.
Well, it would be.
Because we want to ensure that we are vetting any
No, I
co-
mean, you can actually take the addresses of each of those locations, verify and under what circumstances they've been excluded as possible sites. So I don't need to see another map. What I want is location 1, this is the address, they have been contacted, this is why Verizon says it doesn't meet our needs. Location 2, I don't need to see a map, I need to understand of those 9 locations, why they've been excluded as possible locations to co-locate
in writing.
in writing.
Okay.
That's what
So
I.
that's what you want
seeking.
in that
And-
regard.
And Dave, I know you also have questions about this cone, issues.
Well, it's just that, again, okay, you're basically, in the proposed structure for Verizon specifically, it addresses what, probably 90% or 92% of the coverage area that's not covered? Something like that is my guesstimate. With co-location on site number 1, or you get 84% coverage, or site number 2, you
Yeah.
get 75% coverage. That's where I'm saying that's a public policy decision, is that okay? Because then we don't have to have a single source tower at 250 feet.
And it's
That's-
certainly perfectly appropriate that if, I mean, they know at what point it's no longer economically viable for them to do it. So, you know, to say, well, we get, 50%, we could get improved coverage by 50% if we co-locate here, but we won't recover our capital. Whatever their business decision is, they might say, well, we just won't provide coverage there.
On that point, so that would not really pertain to it. Like in the instance of the North Tower, if you can see there.
Uh-huh.
So the problem would be they'd say, and this is my opinion on what an RF engineer might respond. they would say you would be essentially dead zoning that area to the south.
Whatever it is that they say.
Yeah, no, and that's
It's
what
fine.
you wanna see.
Yeah, cause it's like, I don't wanna become a technical expert.
Yeah.
I just want the technical experts to tell me why they have discounted all 9 of those possible locations. And I would ask that other locations, like water towers, which the code also contemplates, that we should look at these high structures, you know, why those aren't viable.
Yeah, and they do sometimes locate on water towers, but very rarely in a rural area.
I just,
Incredibly.
yeah, I just think it's
We
prudent.
just need, and again, I'm not even saying, again, if you go back to the 30,000-foot level, we as a society need cell towers, period. We need our cell phones to work. Now it comes a question of where do they go? And just like me, not in my backyard, you know, I get that. But this particular site that you're talking about, again, I haven't studied it extensively, but it seems like a reasonable site, unless you're one of the 5 or 8 people that live basically across the street from it. I mean, that's not fun. There's an adjustment period, and then you get to where you don't, just like the tower in my backyard right now, it's like, I don't even notice it anymore, and it's ginormous. But that's a transition, and it's real. But before we actually get to that point, we need to make sure that if we're gonna inconvenience anyone, that we have exhausted all the other possibilities.
Which is why the code is written the way it's written in the first place, which requires you to do that, so that we aren't overbuilding where it's not necessary.
Yeah, and I read the code, I have a bias to, here's my understanding of why these things don't operate, why we can't go here and here. That immediately clicks in my brain because it is my industry, so I have a bit of a bias that way. I can understand why you guys want more information.
And the public wants to know
Yeah.
too, because if they're gonna be asked to withstand a 250-foot tower in their eyesight, that they have an understanding that there isn't someplace else for it to be. And if it follows all the conditions of the zoning code, then, you know, that's the way it is. But it's like, I think until we've exhausted the possibilities consistent with what the code requires be done, I can't make a determination on it.
Yeah,
So-
I would suggest, from my standpoint, just hearing you guys talk, you guys want more information, I would suggest tabling this hearing.
Yeah, so I think that's where we're
Let me
inclined to
flip.
continue the hearing. But we still want to be able to provide, members of the public, an opportunity to speak, as well. So Dave, do you have any other questions of this witness? No, great, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so, for members of the public, I'll ask first if there's anybody here who wishes to speak as a proponent for this.
Don't all rush up at once.
Yeah. So seeing not, I just wanna say, if we continue the hearing, it means we're gonna get additional information, we'll have another hearing. You can also come back and you're not giving up your right to speak at that hearing as well. But since you're here, if you do want to testify at this time, by all means, we welcome you to do that, but it's certainly not necessary. So, is there anybody who wishes to testify today as an opponent? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Timothy Michael Kirby. I go by Mike Kirby. I live at 1087 South Nixon Camp. The property directly adjacent to where the cell tower is, or proposed site. Bob, you want to get? This is my neighbor, Bob,
Hi, Bob.
and he's got a PowerPoint presentation that he's my IT guy. So I am a 48-year resident of Warren County. I grew up and lived
And you were sworn in, correct?
Yes, I was.
Okay, thank you.
48 years I've lived here in Warren County. I grew up and lived in Turtle Creek Township. 10 years ago, my wife and I were looking for a place to raise our children, and it only made sense. We bought a house on South Nixon Camp because that's where her and I rode the same school bus that my kids ride. Are we ready, Bob?
Yep.
I am here representing all these wonderful people. We've got a lot of great neighbors, and
You want them all to stand? No?
all my neighbors, raise your hands.
Hi, neighbors.
We live in a wonderful neighborhood. We live in a neighborhood where if you forget to shut your garage door, your neighbor comes over and shuts it for you. You know what I mean? We watch out for each other. We're a vibrant cell tower, non-cell tower community. Go to the next map there, Bob. So this is directly from Verizon's website. As you can see, the dark red is 5G coverage and the pink is 4G coverage. I have Verizon cell service and I live directly from where the cell tower is supposed to be. My phone works fine every day, any day. You can drive to the bottom of 350 into the river, and you can keep a call all the way down and all the way up. So I just want to make sure you guys seen this map because this is from Verizon's website. Next slide, please. So our community is 26 residential homes. There's 70 residents with children. There's 20 plus children on our road. The estimated property value is $13.8 million, and that's per Zillow. That was from 3 days ago, give or take. There is one home that has 6 children that they homeschool. And then, of course, many of us out here, we all have pets, animals. Me personally, I have sheep, goats, a donkey, dogs, chickens, ducks. You know, it's rural lifestyle. All right, Bob. So this was addressed early on. Everything says 1105 Nixon Camp, Lebanon, Ohio. However, the address is 1105 South Nixon Camp, Oregon, Ohio. Mrs. Glancy changed her address to 1105 Nixon Camp, Lebanon, Ohio, because at the time, Oregon had their own post office, and she wanted to get her mail delivered through the Lebanon post office. Her mailbox is actually down on the other side of 350, even though site location is up in Oregon. And if you reference there, everything says Camp Kern. We're not Camp Kern. It says Camp Kern because Camp Kern was approached by the cell tower to build a tower, as well as a couple other neighbors, and they all declined. All right. Go ahead, Bob. This shows our vibrant community and where the tower is going to be. As you can see, you've got all the residential homes here. There's all kinds of other places the tower could be built outside of the residential area. Go ahead. All right, so we've got a few things that we're going to talk about: neighborhood aesthetics, ecological impact, evaluation of property, and of course, health and safety. All right. This is a visual rendering, and we're not 100% on what the tower is going to look like. I'm not a tower expert by no means, but this is a 250-foot tower coming out of my neighbor's property, directly across the street. That's what they get to wake up to every morning when there's 4 houses on that driveway. Go ahead. This is my property. That pole barn you see down in the very bottom of that picture is 25 foot tall to the peak. This is right out my back door. Anywhere on my property, this is what I get to look at. 10 years ago, we bought our home. We spent thousands of sweat equity hours building a pond, building our forever home. And now there's going to be a tower there. Good. All right. So we know the tower is supposed to be 254 foot tall with the lightning rod. We are concerned about the noise pollution. Each carrier has a 55,000 kilowatt generator that runs at least once a week for 24 hours straight. It has the noise levels equivalent to a city street. The cell towers do have air conditioners on them that run 24 hours a day to keep the towers cool. And if you have 4 carriers on there, you multiply that times 4. The light pollution, you know, they already said that it's going to have a beacon flashing at all hours of the night. Where we're in rural Oregon, Ohio, you know, that's light pollution. And of course, traffic on the street. We live on a dead-end street. We have no traffic. If you're on our road, you're either a neighbor or you're visiting a neighbor. Ecological impact. FCC has all been about the humans. There are a bunch of studies, and as you go through here, and we'll go into more detail, but how does it affect livestock? How does it affect chickens? There's been different studies. Chickens don't lay as many eggs. It affects plant growth. The bees, the different RF frequencies affect the animals. Property devaluations. Now, this is a biggie, and this is everybody's concern. Like I said earlier, our properties are valued roughly $13.8 million. National average is anywhere from 2 to 20% devaluation, depending on how close the tower is to your house and how much of the tower you can see. So if you do just a straight 5% devaluation of the 26 properties, we're going to lose almost $700,000 in property value by erecting the cell tower in our backyard. And of course, my property is going to be affected probably the highest compared to anyone else because it's 250 feet from my property line. Go ahead, Bob. Health and safety concerns. All right, the FCC uses standards from 1996. Concerns are about cancers and different things, exposures to there's not been enough studies to long-term effect, you know, what it does for us. Oh, let's see here. I'm trying to go off that. In 2021, there was a court hearing where the FCC lost, and they were told they had to redo the standards, and they have yet to comply. Go to the next one there, Bob. All right. So on this one here, there's studies showing by EH, which is environmentalhealthscience.org, says that you should live a minimum of 400 meters from a cell tower, unless you have underlying health conditions, and then you need to live at least 800 meters from a cell tower. Now, the cell tower representative already said the waves are going to be coming down because we're going to have service right underneath the tower. There are 30 plus homes within that 800 meter range. There are 16 homes at 400 meters or less. And there are 14 homes within that 1800 or that 800 meter range that people have underlying health conditions. My home, for example, I have 2 children living at home. My daughter has a condition called tinnitus, ringing of the ears. I'll maybe go to the next graph. All right. This shows you at the meters on the bottom, greater than 300 is the largest, and as you move down. This graph shows you as you get closer to the cell tower, how it affects you, fatigue. But my daughter has tinnitus, and I was looking at this map last night, and it kind of hit home. The green box is where my home would be. My home is going to be between the 100 and 150 meter mark. The green box, if you look, the highest one, right smack dab in the middle, is hearing disruptions. Now, I do everything in the power to protect my children, and this is a major concern. My wife is diabetic. I have sleep apnea and sleep depression, and there's many other people behind me here that have the same concerns. Go to the next one. All right, this is my neighbor, Zach. He is a journeyman lineman. He is traveling right now with work, so he couldn't be here, but he wanted to basically tell you guys his experience working with cell towers.
Hello, my name is Zach Beach. I live at 1190 South Nixon Camp. My family and I moved in July of 2025. I am a journeyman lineman. I've had firsthand experience working within 300 to 500 foot of a cell phone tower. And that was just a few days in a row. Sometimes it was just one-day jobs. Every time I did, it left me with flu-like symptoms, having nausea, fatigue, and a headache for 3 to 4 days following every day that I did work in front of one. I don't think the location of this is proper. I think there's better spots that it could go. I don't believe it being within 300 foot of someone's back door would be the best bet. It's gonna bring health risks. It's gonna affect everyone in this area's health. Even where my house is at, I don't see how it can be good for us with the radiation that comes off of it. We really moved out here to get away from all of the city stuff and all of that, and I hope that this happens. I hope it doesn't go through. We want to keep the simple way of life out here, keep the wildlife the way it is, because it's going to affect them. I don't remember ever seeing wildlife moving around them. I don't think I've ever even seen a bird land on them. But just take my personal accounts into consideration, and thank you everybody for your time.
Thank you, Zach. Next slide. So there's at least one family on our road that does homeschooling. They have 6 kids ranging from, I'm guessing the baby is probably 8, 10 months old to 10 years old. It is, in studies, they've demonstrated children with greater exposure rates have a decline in cognitive scores. We're always looking out for the children. So studies also show that radiation from the towers have kids who live closer to them have increased metabolic disorders, type 2 diabetes, thyroid issues, and such. So, go to the next one, Bob. I want to talk about it first. This is straight from the Verizon website to their shareholders. This says that they build money into their shareholders for wrongful death suits and settlements for cell phone towers. And I'll go back to the next one, the other one there for a second. And this was just an article also, was this on Verizon's website?
Yeah, well, no, ETA.
This is from EH Sciences. Right. Okay. And this is basically saying, hey, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, when we were kids, asbestos was the next greatest thing until it wasn't. And that's what they're saying about RF radiation, non-ionizing and ionizing waves. Go to the next one there. And this, again, this is from AT&T's website and Verizon's website. And they give you the definition of pollution. And right there, they call out pollution is artificially produced electric fields, magnetic field, electromagnetic field, electromagnetic pulse, sound waves, microwaves, and all artificially produced ionizing and non-ionizing radiation. They define it as pollution, yet they want to put it in our backyard. And that's AT&T and Verizon. All right, next page, Bob. These are some signs from some local towers, Tower 2, Tower 3. You know, I did my homework and we drove around. We looked at some of the towers ourselves. As you see, every one of them radiation, radiation, radiation. Go ahead. And so this is points and counterpoints. Cellular reception may be increased for some. Properties closest to the tower will have decreased cellular reception. Now, we don't know if that's true or not true. The representative here said that the waves are going to point straight down, whereas traditionally they point straight across and you don't have coverage. No one wants to tell a neighbor what they can and can't do. Let me tell you right now, I love my neighbors, with all my heart. Mrs. Glancy, Willa, I've known her 20 plus years. We went to church together years ago. I don't want to tell her what she can and can't do, but I truly think she didn't know what she was doing when she did it, and I think she's regretting it now. She's 84 years old. She may gain some financial benefit. However, all of us as neighbors, we lose our property values and possibly health conditions. The proposed wooded lot is undeveloped, and that's the reason we moved out there, because it was rural country. And let's go on to the next one there, Bob. This was a petition that my wife and I took around to all the surrounding neighbors. Every person I asked signed it. Every neighbor I asked signed that petition. We got 55 signatures on there that are opposed to the cell tower location. Okay. We'll skip through that. That's just saying that all the codes from 1996 and whatnot. So, summary, I can read all this to you, or I can just basically tell you. It's pretty simple. We as neighbors, we're asking you as the commissioners 3 things. Protect our families, protect our properties, and protect our way of life. Nothing more, nothing less. That's all I got.
Thank you so much. Would the applicant like to respond or ask any questions? I'm sorry?
I'd like to respond.
Yes, you come forward and respond.
Do I need to sit down? Do I need to stay up here? Okay.
You're fine, either one, whatever you're comfortable with.
Good job on the PowerPoint. You're pretty well organized. Makes it easy for me to respond as well. I'm just going to go through kind of the points he hit on real quick. So I can look back, and RF coverage maps that are provided to counties are more specific than their website map. They don't give all their information on their website because they do have to expand their coverage. They don't want tower companies knowing where they need coverage, because then you have a problem with companies coming in and establishing sites before you even look at it. But that last part is an opinion. Second one, Camp Kern being the site name. That is just what RF does. The engineer does that. They basically look at Google Earth. I've had a site named Yorkies in Indiana. It was named Yorkies because there was a Yorkies breeding shop or house essentially that was marked on Google Earth or Google Maps, so that's what he named it. The photo sims that you guys got done, those were photo sims. I will say that tower is very ugly. That is not what we are building. If you guys would like a visual of that, that's something I can do.
Yes, we would.
Okay, so I can get photo sims of what we are building. The noise, so the AC units have pretty well just been eliminated. We don't use sheds for our equipment anymore. Fiber optics have eliminated the need for structures on these sites. So we don't use AC really, but the generator, I can ask about how often they test. I'm not certain if it is for 24 hours, and if it is once a month, what I can figure out how often they test those. Environment, we work with EPA, the National Environmental Protection Agency. We will adhere to all their regulations. So that's property devaluation. That one's a little bit It's sticky because it's real estate. It's very, to do an overview you can't do. That's why you have real estate agents. They get to know a market. That's why I have people like me. I get to know an industry. I get to know markets when I walk into them. So it's very hard to pick out what's going on there. We could do a study, but you could also do another study. Health concerns, and this is, he did bring this up, 1996 Telecommunications Act. The health concerns really aren't a zoning issue. They're not really supposed to be considered at this level. That is for state representatives to consider. And I think you guys likely understand that. But those are the ones I wanted to just knock on real quick. And then one question for you guys. We talked about letters. I am a little bit unclear on that. It didn't seem like that was a standard in the county ordinance. It seems like it might have been something with the township.
How about we just have you and Ray confer after we continue the hearing, and he can answer your questions.
Okay. Thank you guys for your time.
Well, I do have one question for you. So I've got several thoughts. I appreciate your presentation. I mean, it's well thought out. It's well done. Believe me, I went through a lot of the same things. My wife has tinnitus. And again, I hate to say that something's right or wrong based on my own personal experience. My wife's hasn't gotten any worse. I've got a ginormous, I can show you a picture, but it doesn't hum. I mean, if I walk up to their generation building and I hear it, but you know, in my backyard or especially around a pool or whatever, I don't hear the towers or what have you, and I'm 200 yards or something away. But I knew what I was getting. You know, when I built there, it predated me, so I made it free market determination. When you talk about public safety, and again, I don't want to get on soapbox, we care a lot about your family, and that's one of the primary reasons why I said what I said, was I do want to protect your family. I want to protect your property by making sure 911 services are available. So that's one of my overarching themes of, is coverage good or not good there? That, again, aesthetically it's this or that. I want the ambulance to show up if one of your kids is, you know, in trouble, right? I mean, so that's my overarching theme, is even more, I don't want it in my backyard. I've been doing this 21 years. You know, I've seen and heard it all at this point. But we get that a lot. But my question goes back to you now, that, hey, there are reasonable assertions that are made, which I would be making also, and those are legitimate questions that have been asked every time a cell tower goes up. Although I think, Bruce, we are charged with health and well-being, correct?
Yes, however, let me point out that this is a site plan review, and the purpose of the hearing is if these factors, the 16 factors that Ray mentioned, put on the slide for you, are being considered, you have to consider if there's some way to mitigate those impacts. So if the presentation by the opponent, was 3-factor request, which he wasn't very specific about, is to ask you to deny this cell tower being here. Ray's already told you that the zoning allows it to be here. So that's not what your purpose is, unless it fits in one of the criterias like the propagation study, and if there's other co-locations available. And the burden of proof is on the applicant to show that those things don't exist. You're really not in a position, unless there's no way to mitigate those impacts. So you have to determine whether these factors that are being raised can be mitigated or not mitigated at all. But yes, our zoning code is very specific, even in site plan review, that we review these applications based on public health, safety, and even comfort, convenience, prosperity, and general welfare.
Right, which is why, honestly, to the public, we're being so diligent that that's our prosecutor telling us, under the law, what we're allowed to take into consideration. Because if we just come in and arbitrarily say, no cell tower, you know, we're with the people, you know, no cell tower. They're gonna sue us, come back and get damages, and then still get a cell tower up. That's what would happen. But his most interesting slide to me was Verizon's own marketing is saying that it's covered. So how are they saying it's covered to, hey, I want you to sign up Verizon, I've got 5 and 4G right here everywhere, and it works. You've got testimony from a Verizon customer saying, I'm fine all the way down to the river. I don't particularly get that, which is why I was going back to our zoning code, which is multi-carrier configurations on these towers, and that Verizon's trying to get 90-something% coverage, but with alignment on one of the existing towers, they would get 75 or 80%. That's an important factor to me. And if you can't overcome that hurdle, that's very problematic to me. And again, I'm trying to stick to what I'm allowed to stick to under the law. And that is something I think potentially could be a fatal flaw with this particular application, is that Verizon's own coverage map shows, sign up. We got great coverage here. That's what that slide says. You're saying the RF engineers are saying, hey, by the way, our coverage is no good here. Well, why are they saying it's good? It's one or the other. And then we can make it better by co-locating on one of the 2 towers that are within 1.5 miles that have capacity. So those are my very serious concerns about this particular thing. But again, I appreciate the presentation, but we have to be very specific on why we would say no. But again, and then when I made my comments earlier, hey, it's wooded, there's a couple of houses. That's not exactly what it, once I saw the picture of, you're literally talking about, there's not that many houses out in the area anywhere, and you're talking about literally kind of right in the middle of all the houses, as opposed to anywhere else in the surrounding area. And if you're not getting enough offers or no one's receptive, maybe you need to raise your price and pay more to someone that's not going to get this much pushback, potentially getting a denial. So that would be my free market advice to you. And the other thing to the residents, if you guys really didn't want that to go in, I hate to say it, you guys could all pull together and buy the 84-year-old lady's property too. Make it into your own little park there or something. That would be a way.
It's
been discussed. Okay, that would be an idea. I would be discussing that if I lived with you, out by you guys. So that's an option. But I'm just saying, from my gut, is we're very narrowly construed on what we're allowed to consider. But the things that the presentation brought up is giving me pause, and then the co-location of multiple vendors on a tower is a big deal to me. And that's exactly why it's in our code, and our code is legal, and we are allowed to consider that. So that's for your consideration.
Yeah. Thank you.
Real quick, yep, great. You got any feedback? I can go to Verizon and get their words, so I'm not putting words in their mouth. Any other questions from you guys? Anything?
No.
Okay, well, David, Jen, especially you two, thanks for the questions. It gave me an opportunity to explain what we were looking for. The rest of you, thank you guys for being here.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition? Sir, come forward and please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Charles Wiley. I live directly across from the Glancy property,
Your address,
1194 South Nixon Camp Road.
And you have been sworn in?
I was not sworn in.
Okay. So would you please raise your hand and you swear to tell the truth?
Yes. So I've heard a lot today. I wasn't planning to come up and speak, but one thing that seems to be a point is the coverage on our street. I would argue there is, as Verizon's site states, very good coverage on our street and in our area. Coverage is so good, in fact, I've been working from home for the last 5 years permanently. At one point when we were using CenturyLink Internet, we were required to get a Verizon hotspot and use it in our house so that my wife and I could both attend Zoom meetings at the same time. And there was no issue with coverage on that hotspot. When we moved to the house in 2012, there was spotty coverage with Cincinnati Bell. I switched to Verizon. I've had no issues with coverage since. Spent a lot of days hunting down at the river, canoeing, kayaking the river, as well as camping down there on overnight campouts. I have cell service at the river. It is a little spottier in the valley on the river, but you do get 4G and typically can get out text messages and phone calls. So I just want to make that clear that from what Ms. Glancy has told me, they told her she would get great cell coverage and so would the neighbors. We already have it. So if that was the purpose or the reason she thought she was doing something good for the neighborhood, I'll invite anybody else here to speak to their experience with Verizon, but I had to use Verizon to work for probably 2 years before we went to Spectrum, and I had no issues with their coverage. I would also invite any of you who want to come out to my house and look at my phone, use your own Verizon phone to see what the coverage is on our street.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition?
Good morning. My name is Christabel Bednar. I live at 1029 South Nixon Camp Road.
And have you been sworn in?
I have been,
Great,
thank you
thank
very
you.
much. I too have had 32 years working in public service and commend you all for your concern for the public safety and well-good for the whole. Part of the concern of the residents within the area of this proposed cell tower is the fact that we're being asked to support for the greater good by accepting this cell tower in our neighborhood. And much as you've pointed out, Commissioner Shannon, there's plenty, and Mr. Young, there's plenty of other rural area better suited for a cell tower. We know for a fact that within the community for the last at least 2 years, 3 to 4 other neighbors have been asked to have a cell tower sited on their property. Negotiations with them have gone from $800 a month to as much as $1,300 a month. It's my understanding that Willa has signed a contract with the cell tower company for $800 a month. Several of our residents have raised concerns that the company in question today has taken advantage of this individual who lives by herself and is of an elderly and vulnerable audience. And in fact, one of our residents in the neighborhood, John Carmack, at 1012 South Nixon Camp Road, presented a letter last night to me. I have copies for you that talks to some of the concerns of the more vulnerable neighbors in the neighborhood. So that's one of his elements. His other elements are again in this letter, and I'll let you read that. But I just wanted to present that to you here today on behalf of John. He is an educator and so was not able to be here in person today. We are concerned about the health. We recognize with FCC rules that's not something that you're allowed to really take into consideration. But it is something that impacts us. And the fact that the federal rules and regs haven't been updated since '96, it is of interest to note that China and Russia's regulations regarding the electromagnetic radiations and waves, etc., are more stringent than what we have here in the U.S. Just one of the facts that in Mike's presentation is stated there, and I just wanted to make certain that that was in the back of your mind, that you understood some of those ramifications as well. The other thing is that those of us on the west side of South Nixon Camp bought our properties knowing that we had the transmission lines running through. I have a 150-foot easement of the electric transmission lines. My neighbor to the north, in fact, has one of those 90-foot towers on their property. We all bought our properties knowing that that was there. We did not buy our properties knowing that someday we would have a 254-foot tower in our backyards. Just, again, something to put out there, that it was would have been a deciding factor had we bought on the road or had considered buying on the road knowing that that was there. I would not have bought the property. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Great, thank you so much for your testimony today. To the clerk. Is there anybody else who wishes to testify in opposition? Seeing none, Bruce, is it appropriate for us to take a motion to, what was the word? Continue in progress.
Yeah, we want to
Thank you.
Yeah, just continue progress, but before you do, I think you need to ask the applicant if he wants to cross-examine any of the three opponents that testified, and specifically ask him on the record whether or not he objects to the information that was just provided to you, or any of the information in the video, including this video of the gentleman who in essence testified that he doesn't get an opportunity to cross-examine.
Yeah.
So you want to object to any of this evidence being put and made part of the record.
Okay, so does the applicant wish to cross-examine any of the witnesses that have brought forward today or object to any of the evidence that has been brought forward today?
I don't wish to cross-examine anybody, and I do have objections, but I don't feel the need to state them point by point. Is that satisfactory?
That's up to you.
Okay, well, I feel comfortable with that.
Okay, and do you have any objection to us continuing the hearing for more information?
Not at all.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'll make a motion to continue this hearing into the future.
What, is there a date?
How far out would you like?
How much time does the applicant need to go through more of this due diligence?
I think a month will do fine.
So 30 days?
That's a pretty standard timeline.
So we could do February the 10th at 9:05.
February the 10th at 9:05?
Is that on Tuesday?
That is all on Tuesday.
Okay.
Okay, so your motion is to continue the hearing in progress until February 10th at 9:05?
That is correct.
And I will second that. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Jones?
Yes?
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you all for
so
coming.
much. Is there anything else to come before the board today?
Staff doesn't have anything.
Motion to adjourn?
And yes. Thank you all. Happy New Year.